Hello and welcome to Simon Says Let's Talk Business on Business RadioX. I'm your host, Al Simon, with Sandler Training. And as usual, on this show, we talk with high-performing business professionals, sharpen their skills, learn new ideas and concepts, share best practices, and get to know smart people. We have some smart people with us today. So listen carefully, take notes, and look for their contact information at the end of each segment so that you can engage with them. And as always, we will conclude with a sales tip from yours truly. So today, just pumped, excited. We got two great companies represented here today. We got Kip Rapp, the CEO of Concora. Welcome, Kip. So tell us about Concora. What is it y'all do?
Thanks, Al. Thanks for having me. It's we're a software company. It's SaaS-based. We work with, they're called building product manufacturers. There's manufacturers that sell into commercial projects, so Kohler, Delta, anyone. If you're building a hotel or a bank, there's manufacturers that sell all the building materials. And their goal is to help architects, engineers, and contractors, and we provide them a software platform that allows them to do business online with their potential buyers.
Okay, so you sell your service of SaaS is software as a service. So you sell your service to the AEC, the architect, the engineer, No, you don't. You sell it to the manufacturer.
It's the manufacturer.
Whose client is our AEC, architects, engineers, and I'll get it in a minute, contractors.
That's fine.
Yeah, we hear that buzzword AEC, and we hear the buzzword SaaS, and I just like to make sure that our listeners are clear on that, and I messed up the chain of command here. So you sell to the manufacturers who are trying to do a better job of working with architects, engineers, and contractors. Did I get that right?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So tell us about building material manufacturers. I mean, you're talking about what? Wood, obviously, right? What else?
Yeah. It's to think about it, it's like you're building a house. If you're building a hotel, and anything inside the house or hotel is building materials, could be chairs and lights and walls and floors and insulation, all the things that are hidden, all the things that are seen. So it could be plumbing, electrical, and it's even things on the envelope of the building. So it could be the walls and even outside the building. So if there's even the concrete or the piping sometimes, or the lighting fixtures outside too. So it's all it's something I didn't realize and understood when I started, but it's a quite a fascinating industry, and it's certainly an industry that's going through digital transformation.
Is it?
Yeah, and certainly as you mentioned with COVID before, it's the need that you see with these architects when they're let's say they're designing a hotel, and you're an architect, and in the old days you would do it on blueprints, and then you would use 2D CAD, which was great, but it's a digital environment. But today it's a very digital design process where you're designing in 3D, and you, instead of having a physical sample and a blueprint, you need the manufacturer to provide you really good product content, and they go to your website. And what a lot of manufacturers have a challenge today is providing a very good experience that's geared towards that architect, engineer, and contractor. So it's a web experience, it's a great content, it's great tools, and in that example, that architect, if they're putting in a Kohler faucet or Shaw carpets, they would like to have a 3D version, and they don't want to build it themselves, and if it takes too much time or money, that's not a great experience for that architect, and they'll likely choose another manufacturer. And so that's why the digital transformation, the website, the digital strategy are all very important. And traditionally, a lot of the manufacturers, they're very good on the residential side. They sell to Home Depot. They have photos on their website. But if they're trying to gear towards a buyer journey for the architect, it takes too many clicks. The content's not there. It's not accurate. You can imagine if that faucet is not accurate.
Yes.
They put that on the job site, and then there's a change order. And so that's something that we have a passion for, both for big companies and small companies.
Okay. So you really make it easier for architects, engineers, contractors to do business with the manufacturers by helping the manufacturers give their prospects a better experience.
Yeah, that's right. A great experience that's on the website. Every architect, engineer when they're looking to use manufacturer's product, they're looking to go to the manufacturer's website, and they're looking for a place that they can trust and use, something that's consistent, because time is money. And if you're able to help that engineer, that contractor, that architect with providing sustainability information, providing them with good tools to create proposals, or providing them with good content, then they're going to keep using your product.
Makes sense. Okay. You mentioned some challenges that the manufacturers might have meeting the AECs, right? I mean, tell us more about how you've helped with that situation.
Yeah, so their website traditionally, as we mentioned before, a lot of manufacturers have good websites, but they're not exactly supporting that digital buyer journey that's needed by today's architects, engineers, and contractors. And so a good example is, like, a lot of people, they might use WordPress for their website. And then when an architect goes to that website that's built in WordPress from that manufacturer, and they're looking, I need your sustainability tools. I want to create a proposal. I want to find the best product for my building project. Those tools lack or don't even understand what's really needed by that architect. So it's not very purposeful for that journey. And so that's how we help. And a lot of manufacturers, they understand the need, because they get calls from the architect says, hey, I really want to use your product. However, you're missing this content here. I need this drawing here. They leave a voicemail, and it's not the best experience. And so that's how we help, is by giving them an infrastructure. Most of the manufacturers, off-the-shelf infrastructure like their website, their content management systems, the way they update products, it's not really designed for the commercial business. And so they'll either take a long time to do it, they'll have to hire expensive consultants, and that's where we have a very good differentiation, because we can provide a very out-of-the-box experience that's made for the commercial business.
So you say out of the box. I mean, it's just easier, right? Easier for the manufacturer's prospect to buy from them.
That's right.
Bottom line,
that's
really?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so it's easier. It's obviously more accurate. Helps them not have change orders and such. Yeah. So you must have a really good way of training the manufacturers how to use your product, because don't you have to customize it for each individual manufacturer?
Yeah. So for example, if they have an existing website and they have, let's say they have 100 products, and so a lot of the times we can just make use of what they have today on their website and take those links and put it into a better user experience. And since we also have a way for they can manage the content themselves and publish it like a normal content management system. And what's really nice is that when they provide a better experience for that architect and they're going to allow them to do business online, we provide that interaction data back to the manufacturer. So if Al, the architect from New Jersey, is building a hospital and goes to this manufacturer site, we can give that back to the sales team so they can have very meaningful conversations with Al and help support them with questions and build that relationship so they could further ensure that their products are being sold.
How did you know I had questions about how the sales team gets involved?
Yeah.
But that's critical. And I mean, if I'm a salesperson and my prospect is that contractor or architect in New Jersey, I'm going to want to know, what are they doing with us? What do they need, and how can I make sure that they got what they need? So good stuff. Okay, you've got this service, software as a service. You sell it to manufacturers. It helps them because the architects, engineers, and contractors have a better experience, so they want to buy from the manufacturer. They make it easy to buy from the manufacturer, easy to work with the manufacturer. What's not to like here? Yeah,
it's I'd say a category that's new. A lot of the manufacturers that we talk to are used to doing it how they've been doing it before, and it's challenging. Yeah. They'll work with the marketing agency. They'll work within their own systems that aren't well focused for this journey, this buyer journey for the architects. And so our goal is to evangelize and let them know that there's a new way to be able to solve this challenge in this new digital economy. And as we talk to them about what's needed by their design community, these architects, and how they want to do business online versus 10 years ago. And a lot of this is too because the whole construction, building a building, it's very digital today. It's very virtual today. And it's because of that, because it increases quality, reduces time, increases profit. And so you have these new trends in the construction industry, which means then the people that are using your products are wanting to do business with you differently. So it's like before the internet came out. Now you have the internet. It's like, well, how do you use this stuff?
Yeah, that's right. Everybody had to figure that out.
And so that's our goal is as we talk to these leaders in these manufacturing companies, the VPs of sales and marketing, and tell them what's needed today and why that's needed and how that can help you get business outcomes that you care about, which is growing more product sales by meeting that digital buyer need, and then letting them know that this is really hard to do yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that within 30 to 60 days, we have a very good experience. We enable that design journey right on the manufacturer's website. It's private labeled, it's in their brands, it's transparent to that visitor, that architect, and within a week, you can see the increased traffic. You see the real people that are visiting. A lot of the manufacturers just aren't aware of who's visiting their website.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not just in manufacturers, but in many other businesses too.
It's like, who's visiting?
Yeah. You got to know that. Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you get involved in this? What's your story here?
Well, I was in Seattle 4 years ago, and I was searching for opportunities, and this one was just fascinating. I always loved working at entrepreneurial companies because of the effort and the results that you get, and being able to utilize your all your experience and technique, and it's something that I have a passion for. My background's in product management.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's been quite a journey, and it's all, as Enrique said, it's all about the people.
Yeah.
You know, great people make great companies, and having a passion for others, and it's a very good last 4 years of experience.
Excellent. Yeah, Saurel, you have a question or a comment?
I do have a question combined with a comment. I'm fascinated by this, right? And I'm wondering, how are you using what you already know about the needs, experiences of the architects, the engineers, and the contractors to craft a journey for them, maybe using artificial intelligence? Like, you already know what they want and the products are there. Is your product doing that crafting as you go, aiding them in a way so that you increase sales by already meeting their needs?
Yeah, it's a great question. What being from a product manager background, you focus on solving problems by looking at what your customers need and what their customers need. And the big challenge was understanding what architects want today versus what they wanted 20 years ago. And yeah, AI would be awesome. It's down to three fundamentals. Is that if you're an architect, you need to be able to specify a chair, a faucet, an air conditioning unit. And in today's digital economy, they go to your website, number one, because we know that because we talk to architects and do surveys. We do phone surveys and email surveys with engineers and contractors, and that's what they're telling us. It's like, please make my life easier. It's really hard today. I only get so much money for this project, and time is money. And the manufacturers, if they could do X, Y, Z for me, and after you talk to a lot of these folks, you have those commonalities, which then boils down into a good web experience, good content, and good tools. And so that's what we try to keep it simple and with high quality, and we grow on that. And so we're excited because there's a lot more problems that we can solve, both on the architect and the engineer side, but also on the manufacturer side. But it's really listening to them and then evangelizing that to the larger market so that the whole industry can improve.
I love what you just said. So you're focusing on a good web experience, good content, good tools. That makes it easier. Okay, so once again, we've been talking with Kip Rapp, the CEO of Concora. It's a SaaS organization, that's software as a service, selling to manufacturers to make it easier for them to work with their clients, which is architects, engineers, and contractors. Great stuff. How long have you been? You said 4 years ago. How long has Concora been around?
They've been around more than 10 years, more as a services company.
Okay.
And that part of my mission was to help with the technology side.
The technology opportunity was there. Yeah. They brought you in, and you're doing great stuff. That's awesome.
It's been a fun ride.
I'll bet. I'll bet. Just moving from Seattle to Atlanta might be a fun ride.
Not as fun.
So, Kip, if people wanted to get a hold of you and your organization, what's the best way to do it?
Certainly, the website, it's a great place to go. It's concora.com, Concora, and I'm reachable. My email is kip.rapp, RAPP, @concora.com.
Excellent. That makes it simple also.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. So, yeah, thanks for joining us. This is really good.
Yeah, it's been fun. I appreciate the time, and it's definitely I appreciate it that you're able to help us get our message out there and help others.
Well, you're obviously helping others, making it easier for people to do business. Really good stuff. So manufacturers should buy from you, so they make it easier for their prospects and clients. This is Al Simon with Sandler Training by Simon Inc. and Business RadioX show. Simon Says, Let's Talk Business. Saurel Quettan. So we got people who are doing a great job of making a good web experience and making it easier for their prospects to buy from them. And then now you're going to help those CEOs be what? More effective, more productive?
The CEOs of those companies, like the founders, everyone wants to be successful as an individual and as a company.
Yes.
And so exeQfit, and I would say I exist to ensure that individuals, teams, and organizations maximize their contribution and their fulfillment. Because, in the final analysis, Al, people want to make a contribution. And there are cogs in the systems, both human and organizational, that minimize or even thwart on many occasions their contributions and their fulfillment. So we exist to assist CEOs and owners and founders and organizations to not only create that environment but sustain it. And we anchor ourselves in this thing we call personal leadership.
Okay, personal leadership.
So when you look at any organization, any relationship, whether it's an organization of 10 million people or 2, you've got human beings at play, right? And for the organization to produce what it's aimed to produce and deliver what it's promising, it's relying on the personal leadership and ownership of each and every. And our process focuses not on teaching you to become a leader, but really to remove the barriers to the expression and the exercise of that leadership effectively. So I firmly believe that if you're a human being, you are a leader.
Yes.
Yet there are barriers to the expression and effective exercising of that leadership. And mostly, given that you're a human being, those barriers are hidden from you. So we create the space where individuals and teams can effectively assess what I call their personal leadership effectiveness. And it's
of their leaders?
No, of themselves.
Of themselves. Okay.
Of themselves.
Okay.
So, because see, the thing is that's where I think things go south when I'm assessing your leadership as opposed to assessing my own. See, the beauty of living a fulfilled life and being a top contributor in an organization is to be, whether you're at the top of the organization or the bottom of the organization, to be continually in the space where you're assessing your own leadership effectiveness and bringing to the party your expertise, your experience, and your network as a gift to that collective. And you know what? Human beings aren't wired to do it that way.
They're not. So we're talking with Saurel Quettan, the founder and CEO of exeQfit, talking about effective leadership. And you mentioned a word, Saurel, when you first started talking. The word was thwarted. And I'm always intrigued when anyone uses that word. It's not a word you hear a lot. Thwarted.
You don't hear that a lot, And to me, that word has this significance. There's something that you are innately intending to do, some way you're intending to be, and yet, however hard you work at it,
just can't get there. Right?
You just can't get there. Something
barriers
is thwarting you, right?
Yes. That's the barriers.
And you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So personal leadership effectiveness starts this way. Now, if I were to ask anyone, including you, Al, including you, Kip, how are you defining success? You'd very likely have answers to that are very familiar to everyone. And they would involve what I call the 5 Ps.
Okay.
That would be prosperity, prestige, position, pleasure, and power. I don't care how you slice it. If you're the leader of the company, you're looking for these 5 P's. And when somebody says, how do you define success? You'll answer in terms of these 5 P's. Yet, power, prestige, position, pleasure, you name it, focuses on the individual. It focuses on me. So to the extent that I'm in an organization pursuing these 5 P's, for me, that in and of itself is a thwarting agent. So how do I go beyond that? Well, I first go beyond that by realizing that I'm doing that.
Yes. But how do you teach that? How do you get people over that?
Here's the deal. We don't teach leadership. You actually don't need to teach that. It's a funny thing that when something's hidden from your view, and all of a sudden you can see it like plain and day, like the hand in front of your face, there are actions that are right there. There are words that are right there to say and use. So we don't teach leadership. So it's not about having a profile for the ideal employee, a profile for the ideal CEO. It's about assisting each and every in discovering the barriers, and when the barriers are right there in front of you, actions are right there. If you don't mind, I'd love to tell you a little story.
Well, I don't know. We may be out of time. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Let's hear the story. Come on.
Well, like Kip, I think birds of a feather, right? I love living and working to make a difference. So for the better part of 15 years right now, I'm from Haiti. I have been going to Haiti using this very approach to instill that methodology and have leaders from the grassroots. I mean, you're talking about people who live in rural Haiti. Some know how to read, some don't, but they have nothing. So this group of people cultivate sugarcane. There's no road from the sugarcane plantation and the distillery.
Right.
They press the sugarcane, create syrup. The majority of their barrels stay and rot in the field. So we're having this conversation to discover what's thwarting their business.
Yes.
And they got to say collectively, we can't sell our syrup to the distillery because the government has not built a road for us. In a conversation, one of them popped and goes, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'm more interested in blaming the government than doing something about what I'm complaining about.
Right there is an aha moment right there. Most people do blame instead of taking responsibility.
Absolutely. But you know what? I do it. But more often than not, I don't discover it for myself. And if I do discover it, I'm not going to tell anyone else that I'm doing that. So in an environment where you want to create a team that's effective, that works well, you also need to create an environment where the discovery isn't personal and individual. The discovery becomes a collective thing that gives people in the organization the opportunity to create a language that is common to being and exercising leadership, and a language that gives them the opportunity to hold each other accountable without that being a threat. So guess what?
Makes sense.
When that group of people in Haiti realized that they were more interested in blaming the government than taking action, guess what they did? In less than 2 weeks, barefoot, with machetes and hoes, they cut themselves their own road. And to this day, they're maintaining that road.
Are they really?
And to this day, their business has more than quadrupled. Now, did I teach them leadership? No. Everyone has the capacity to be a leader and exercise leadership that way.
So what you did, let me make sure I got this right. What you did was you enabled that person to say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, wait a minute. So that's where the breakthrough can come through.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you get people to say, hey, wait a minute?
When you realize the impact and really feel it for yourself, the impact of sticking to the status quo, you want to do something about naturally. And all it takes is a little nudge. So the way we do it is simple. We have a conversation. We create a really safe environment where the entire team, in the context of an assessment that we conduct on 10 key characteristics of what it is to be successful in life as a leader. And as we're consulting and coaching executives and team members, it's not sort of esoteric. It's really very pragmatic. We're saying, okay, now that you've done the assessment, let's take a look as a team and as an individual. Where do you see gaps?
Right.
And what can we create together as a plan of action to address these gaps? Now, in addition to these gaps in leadership, we love to work on the court. And what that means is either you're an individual or a company, you're actually implementing an initiative. Now, we'll sit together, and for the first time in many instances, Al, imagine this. You've got a group of people interested in power, prestige, position, pleasure, and for themselves.
Right.
That's one. That's before the assessment.
Right.
And then after the assessment, you've got a group of people who are interested in exploring what would it look like if I'm now looking at power, prestige, position, pleasure, and from the perspective of the team.
Okay.
Now, if you've got the first group planning your project or the second group planning your project, which do you think might deliver a more comprehensive and effective plan?
It's always better when you're not focused on yourself.
Exactly.
Always.
The second. So they
Yes.
create that plan with our coaching and assistance. Because as you're creating a plan, it's essential to see how the innate sort of automatic way to be and behave creeps in. And since you won't see it for yourself, to have someone in the mix who goes, hey, you hear it's creeping up again, you go, oh, wow. And then you can, even at times, force yourself to think differently and create a different plan.
And I'm guessing the name of your company, which is a very unique name, has something to do with what you're talking about. exeQfit, right?
Absolutely.
So EXEQFIT.
Yeah.
Tell us about how that name came about.
You know, I named the company that so it could remind me of why I did it in the first place. To me, it's this. You can see something new.
Mm-hmm.
You can see what's thwarting you. But until you take an action consistent with your new view, you're in the same old place.
Right.
So exeQ stands for execution and executives. Not executives in the way we think about it. It's executive you. I don't care if you're the guy loading the truck. You're an executive in that post.
Because you're executing on something.
Exactly.
Yes.
And fit is for my recognition that everyone is fit to be a leader.
Awesome.
Yet, you might need to do a few push-ups.
Well, that's the key part, right? Because, like you said yourself, they can have that aha moment that, hey, wait a minute, but actually taking action on it is a different thing because people like the status quo.
Yeah,
somehow it's comfortable.
Thing. Very, very comfortable. It's innate in human beings. So now we've talked a lot about being a human being and being stuck in what's comfortable and automatic for a human being. I want people to know there's nothing wrong with that. It just comes with the package.
Because we're human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with wanting power. There's nothing wrong with wanting pleasure. That also comes with the package. And the people who work with us come having made a distinction between achievement and success. And they realize that, achievement is temporary. Success could be eternal. In the context of my success, when created in the context of the collective, the team, lasts forever.
Mm-hmm. That's how people grow.
Yeah.
That's how they grow. They get out of their comfort zone, think in terms of the team.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, again, we're talking with Saurel Quettan, the founder and CEO of exeQfit. And I could talk about this stuff forever.
Yeah, we
Saurel,
could.
right.
And you know what? What I want people to remember is this. It sounds simple. It is. But it's not easy to stick to it.
Yeah.
So, if you ask me the question, does everyone need a coach? I would say, no, I wouldn't say that. But I'd say the people who are committed, the people who are intentional about producing the results they want, and the people who are intending on making a difference beyond their own 5 Ps, get a coach. Because they know that having a coach, having someone or an organization in that capacity in the mix provides sort of, it's like an eye above the fray.
Well, skills and knowledge aren't enough.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There are barriers, as you mentioned, that are thwarting growth, thwarting progress, thwarting making a better life for people. You're working with companies, obviously, the people in companies. Mm-hmm. Any particular kind of company is your target?
I don't target a particular kind of company. Rather, we target a company that's at a specific stage in its growth.
Which is which stage?
If startups are a little hard for us to work with, so we work with established businesses, small to medium-sized businesses that are generating $2 million and up. The environment is ripe for human beings to be human beings.
Right. Okay.
Getting thwarted and wondering, why are we getting thwarted?
All right. So our listeners who are part of or who know of established companies, $2 million and up, how would they best get a hold of you?
We've created a very easy way to get a hold of us.
Which is?
People love their mobile phones. Pull out your mobile phone right now and type in the number 21,000 as a number that you're texting to.
Okay.
And all you have to text to that number is my first name, S as in Sam, A-U-R-E-L. You will get a digital card that will give you all of the ways to connect with me.
All right. So text
Saurel,
S-A-U-R-E-L, to
21,000.
21,000. That sounds easy.
Yeah.
Sounds easy.
Yeah.
Saurel, thank you for being with us. Kip, thank you so much for being with us today. Been a great show. So, again, this is Al Simon with Sandler Training by Simon, Inc., and the show is Simon Says Let's Talk Business, and it's been a terrific show. And as always, we'll wrap it up with a sales tip. Typically what we do is we have listeners that send in their questions on sales and sales management to me. My email address is al.simon@sandler.com. And so if you've got a question about sales or sales management, send me an email with your question, and it just might find yourself getting it answered on the air on Simon Says Let's Talk Business. The listener's question that I'm going to talk about today says, what do you do when you can't meet with the final decision maker? What do you do when you can't meet with the final decision maker? And that is a very, very common issue. First of all, and most important, get high early. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I don't mean smoke marijuana at 9 o'clock in the morning, but never mind. Get high early means in any organization that you are targeting as your prospect, as soon as you can get to the highest possible position of the person who can make it happen and who can release the funds, cut the PO, whatever it looks like, sign the contract, the better. Now, sometimes we have an inbound lead, and that inbound lead slots us to someone who's lower in the organization, and then that's great, but it creates the problem, okay, if that person that you now slotted it with can't make it happen, can't cut that PO, can't sign that check, can't give you the credit card number, can't sign the contract, then we've got a problem. We have to be able to get up higher. So exhaust all efforts to get higher. And there's lots of good ways to do that. One of the best ways is to say to the person with whom you're talking, whom you're quote slotted, to say, what would be the next step? I suggest this and this and this, and why don't we get whoever's involved in on that meeting? That phrase, why don't we, is really important in this thing, because you can use whatever words you want for the rest of it, but I want our clients to use the words, why don't we, with their prospect who's not high enough, because that makes the problem solvable by both parties, and then it becomes a group effort to make it happen. So exhaust all efforts to get as high as you can. But if there's a situation where you just can't get to the ultimate decision maker for whatever reason, they don't make themselves available, or the person that you're slotted against is thwarting your efforts, Saurel, to get there, which happens, then you've got to do what we call the virtual decision process, which is fairly involved. So you want to take notes here. The virtual decision process says this. So let's say that I'm calling on Enrique, and Enrique's boss is Kip. But Enrique won't let me get to Kip, or for whatever reason, even though Kip's a great guy, he won't talk to salespeople, so I can't get to Kip. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with Enrique, and I'm going to ask Enrique if he would like my help in what he's going to take to Kip. And in that conversation, I'm going to do what we call the rehearsal. Have Enrique actually rehearse with me out loud how he's going to present this to Kip. And I'll ask him questions like, and what question do you suppose Kip might ask here? And what would Kip be most worried about there? And so we have this conversation. It's pretty involved. It's going to take a while with me and Enrique to go through this. And then at the end, I'm going to ask Enrique 2 favors. The first one is this. Enrique, after I present my solution to you, for you to present it to Kip, so after I present it to you, would you do me a favor and tell me if it was up to you completely? And I know it's not. You've got to get Kip's approval and all that. But let's suppose that it was just all up to you. Would you tell me whether or not you would say yes to my solution or not? And or not is just fine. And so, let's say Enrique says, sure, I'll do that, Al. And then I'll say this. And then I would ask a second favor. Based on what you know about Kip, would you tell me whether or not you think he would also say yes or not? And that's going to tell me a lot when Enrique answers those 2 questions. So, again, to summarize, if you can't get to the ultimate decision maker, use the virtual decision process where you do the rehearsal and the 2 favors. But please, 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 get out of your comfort zone and get high early. And that's the sales tip for today from Al Simon. It's Sandler Training by Simon Inc. If you have a question for me to answer on the air, go to al.simon@sandler.com. And once again, this has been Simon Says, Let's Talk Business. Kip, Saurel, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it very much. Great show. Everybody, good selling.